This past year has been my personal development awakening. Some might even call it my villain arc. Just kidding. I don't consider myself as a villain, but I have learned the hard way to put myself first. And sometimes when you start prioritizing yourself, some people will label you as a villain. But to me, I've really changed for the better, and I've made a lot of breakthroughs this past year. And these breakthroughs were in areas of my life that I felt pretty stuck in for a really long time. The main categories being my career, my marriage, my health, and my friendships. I realized the reason I was able to make these breakthroughs is because I let go of baggage that was holding me back from living my best life. A good analogy of this is it's like you're trying to climb up a mountain, but you have a backpack full of rocks that are slowing you down and making your journey up this mountain so much more difficult. But once I ditched the rocks, my journey became so much easier. So in this video, the 8 things that I'm leaving behind in 2024 are like the rocks that I'm ditching out of my backpack. And I want to inspire you to do the same because I want all of us to thrive this next year. So let's get into the 8 things that we should all leave behind in 2024. Not just me, but we, okay? We're in this together. Number 1 is people pleasing. There is literally no reward for people pleasing. You've probably been doing it for your entire life, and where has it gotten you? Are you getting the recognition you thought you'd get? Are your efforts being reciprocated the way you want? No? I didn't think so. Instead, it's probably making you feel resentful, unfulfilled, depleted, invisible. So stop it, bestie. Stop it right now. If you're not sure if you are a people pleaser, let's define it because I didn't realize I was doing it when I was deep in it. People pleasing is prioritizing other people's wants and needs above your own well-being. And this is often to avoid conflict or feel accepted. This can look like struggling to say no, overcommitting, apologizing excessively, even if it's not your fault. All of this usually stems from a fear of abandonment or low self-esteem. And I know this can be a really deep-rooted issue to just stop with a snap of a finger. So my advice would be to start by saying no to small things, then work your way up to saying no to bigger things. Also start to look inwards and discover who you really are and what you really like. Because if you've been people-pleasing for long enough, you're probably really out of touch with your own true desires. What helped me snap out of it is realizing how truly silly it is to try and please everyone. It's literally impossible and totally useless. Like, who is it good for? It's obviously not good for you as the people pleaser, but it's also not good for the person on the receiving end because you're just giving them the ick. People can sense your desperation and insecurity, and at best, a good person will feel pity for you, and at worst, a bad person will take advantage of you. But in both scenarios, they don't actually like you because this behavior is such a turnoff. And it's useful to understand that no matter how much of a saint you are, some people are just gonna hate you because you trigger them in some way. Maybe it's your voice, maybe they're jealous of the way you look or how much money you make. Just get comfortable with being the villain in some people's stories because it's inevitable. If you're a desperate people pleaser, you are the villain because you give them the ick. If you are a confident person living their best life, then you're the villain because they're jealous of you. So might as well choose the second one. But at the end of the day, as long as you're not being a horrible and malicious person, it's not really your problem or your business why you trigger someone so much. I've personally gotten to the point where I rarely think about how people feel about me, and it's so freeing. And you know what? It's actually healthy for everyone to like certain people and not really vibe with others because that discernment is how you find real connections. And I'm gonna clarify the obvious nuance here. I'm not saying don't do things for your loved ones who deserve it and reciprocate the effort. There is a middle ground between being a selfish asshole versus a desperate people pleaser, so shoot for the middle. The second thing I'm leaving behind in 2024 is victim mentality. You have every right to feel like a victim because guaranteed you've had traumatizing things happen to you in the past. But is it useful to feel like a victim? No, because a victim mindset disempowers you and it convinces you that you are stuck and have no control over your circumstances. And anything that makes me feel stuck and powerless is just not useful in my eyes. When you think of yourself as a victim, you're lying to yourself and denying your true power because you actually have so much more control over your life than you think. The only way to get past whatever it is that happened to you is to get out of your victimhood and become empowered. And you can do it right now because it's simply a decision that you make. Say to yourself, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. I'm capable and resilient, and my life can be whatever I want it to be. Shift your focus to what you can control and reframe every challenge as an opportunity for growth. So every December, I reflect on the previous year and I decide what I want the next year to look like. Part of this process for me is to choose a word that best describes this next chapter of my life. For 2025, I chose the word flourish, whereas 2024, the word was healing. Because in order to flourish in 2025, I first had to heal the wounds that were holding me back back from living my best life. Which brings me to the paid partner of today's video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that makes therapy available to anyone on their schedule. So many people were telling me to try BetterHelp for the longest time, primarily my best friend and my brother. So this past year, I finally gave it a shot, and all I can say is I wish I started sooner. I've spoken briefly about this before, but if you don't know, I suffered from binge eating and I also have ADHD. And this past year has been pretty rough with juggling my engineering job and content creation, so I had a pretty bad case of burnout as well. And this is where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp connected me with a credentialed therapist based on my personal needs. All I had to do was fill out a quick questionnaire, and they quickly matched me with a therapist that best suited me and my preferences. And the matching process is actually pretty fast. It typically takes up to 48 hours, but don't worry if you don't vibe with your therapist. It's so quick and easy to get matched to a new one free of charge. Luckily, I immediately clicked with the first therapist that I was matched with. My therapist provided me with such useful tools to manage my ADHD, my binge eating, and my burnout. As a result, this helped me run my business, my marriage, and my personal life so much more efficiently. I also love how truly flexible and personalized the experience is on BetterHelp. Scheduling a session with your therapist is so simple, and you're obviously able to choose between a video call or voice call, but you can also message your therapist at any time. And the site is packed with so much more. There's a journal feature, a goal setting feature, and group therapy options. What I realized through my therapy experience this past year with BetterHelp is that therapy helps unblock the things that are preventing you from living your best life. Life isn't just about surviving and getting by, it's about thriving and seeing your full potential. So whatever's preventing you from thriving, BetterHelp is here for you. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your first month of therapy, get out of survival mode in 2025, and start truly living with the help of BetterHelp. Now let's get back to the video. The third thing that we are leaving behind in 2024 is denying our dreams. So in 2023 and early 2024, I had kind of given up on my dreams. Ever since I was really young, I knew I wanted to work in a creative field like fashion, media, or entertainment in some way. But I had gone to school for electrical engineering, and I worked as an engineer for around 5 years after graduating. But this was my parents' dream, not mine. So for 5 years, I worked at 2 different companies, and it was your typical 9-to-5 corporate environment. And I was working surrounded by these engineers who had honestly given up on their own lives, and you could just tell that they had no passion left. It was actually really sad and demoralizing to be around, and unfortunately it rubbed off on me. Another negative aspect that doesn't seem negative at first is the money I was making was actually pretty good, so it lulled me into this sense of comfort and made me nervous to leave such a stable position to go and chase the unknown of my dream life. But I realized how dangerous this was because I was paying a price for that stability and comfort. The price was regret and misery for not seeing my full potential. Not to be dramatic, but I would literally cry in the car driving to the office when I was at my engineering job. I was just so depressed because I knew that every moment that I stayed at that job, I was wasting precious time. My personal greatest fear is being on my deathbed and feeling regret for not chasing my dreams and seeing how far I could take things. Like, what could my life look like if I just went for it? I refuse to die without knowing. So I've been doing social media, mainly YouTube and Instagram, as a side hustle for years now, but I've always wanted to go full time. So back in July, I finally pulled the trigger and quit my engineering job to do content full time. And there have been so many moments of confusion and fear, but at the same time, I've never been happier and more fulfilled. And honestly, right after I quit my job, content creation has been going so much better than I expected. And my only wish is I had gone full time sooner. There are 2 quotes that I heard in 2024 that really resonated with me. The first one was, "The time will pass regardless. You can either waste it or use it to the fullest." And the second one, "So many people are living your dream. Why not you? Why not me? Why not you? Why not any of us?" Every human being on this planet has infinite potential, so don't you dare waste another second of your life doubting yourself. This next year for me is about relentlessly chasing my dreams and not being apologetic about it, which ties right into the next point. The fourth thing that we are leaving behind in 2024 is people that don't move you towards your dream life. Like I mentioned in the previous point, being surrounded by those coworkers who had given up on their own lives had rubbed off on me. Even though though I tried my best to stay strong, that kind of negativity wears anyone down over time. The people that you surround yourself with can make or break your entire life. They say that you are the average of the 5 people in your closest circle. So take an honest look at your closest circle. Are they people that make you doubt yourself? Do they convince you to not dream big? Do they project their own limiting beliefs onto you? Do you feel like you have to dim your light when you're around them? Unless you're okay with other people squashing your dreams, these people need to go. Friends or family. Maybe you don't realize it right now, but there are people out there that think your dreams are small and would encourage you to dream bigger. People who expand your idea of life and inspire you and encourage you to be a better person and dream bigger and live a bigger life. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. And I know it can be really hard to distance yourself from friends and especially family, but if someone is a source of negativity and doubt, just rip the band-aid off and distance yourself. You don't have to completely cut them off, but at least distance yourself so they're not a daily and regular influence on your mindset. I will warn you that there will be a period of time where you probably feel lonely after you've distanced yourself from your old circle, but if you go into it with an open mind, new and better people will come into your life. The 5th thing we are leaving behind in 2024 is neglecting our health. Sometimes when we're young and our bodies are working properly, we convince ourselves that health is something that we can worry about in a decade or so. What I hear from a lot of elderly people is that they still feel young in their minds, and it can be really frustrating when you still have these desires to go out and live life and have fun, but because your body is deteriorating prematurely, it's a very frustrating experience. You lose your physical freedom, you need help with everyday tasks, and you just lose your independence. So to me, my health and fitness journey has never just been about aesthetics. It's very much about longevity and mobility. I'm so inspired by these elderly people I see online that are running, jumping, and just playing around with their grandkids. Seeing these healthy, mobile, and independent elderly people makes me realize what's possible for all of us. So this past year, I've made some changes that I'm gonna double down on in 2025. The main things that I've decided for myself is that I limit alcohol to 3 to 4 times a year. I don't smoke anything of any kind. I get some form of movement daily, and I limit processed foods to once a month or even less than that. Food is definitely the hardest one for me because I'm such a foodie, but I have gotten to a point where I value the way that my body feels and my energy levels more than I value the way food tastes. It's like that TikTok sound that goes, no more cheese fillets, no more McDonald's. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No more cheese fillets, no more McDonald's, no more chicken wings, no more chicken nuggets with and sour, no more IHOP.
Yeah, that's the vibe for 2025. And the sooner you start taking care of your health, the better. It's like investing in stocks. The younger you start, the bigger your earnings will be over time. Whereas if you start investing when you're older, you might experience some earnings, but it won't really be much. Health is really similar. So that's why I've decided to start taking it seriously now and not later when it's too late. Okay, number 6. We are leaving behind brain rot content. Brain rot content is anything from reality TV, YouTube drama, Reddit drama, TikTok, etc. My form of brain rot content that I was binging was Reddit reaction content, podcasts, and videos. I was obsessed with listening to this stuff. Mainly Am I the Asshole posts, relationship drama, people asking for relationship advice, and it was just entertaining to hear about how messy and drama-filled other people's lives are. But this type of content is just super negative. It's full of conflict and it's just meant to get you riled up. It's very indulgent content. It's like eating a very decadent cake. You enjoy it in the moment, but you're left with a stomachache. Negative, drama-filled content is the same. You indulge in these feelings of anger and righteousness. You let yourself get riled up at the villain in a reality show or the asshole in an Am I the Asshole post. But how do you feel after? Probably negative. This content keeps you in the vibration of anger, defensiveness, and pessimism. And remember, your diet is not just what you eat, it's also the media you consume, so be mindful of it. But you don't need to cut out media entirely because you can gain a lot from TV or online content. So this past year, I completely cleaned up and curated my social media pages. Now I only see content that inspires me, keeps me on track for my goals, or just makes me happy. Like cat videos, for example. Like 50% of my feed is cat cat videos. Also right now, if you don't have a good circle of friends around you that are positive influences, the people that you follow and the content that you consume can be a substitute for real life people. Like if you want to start a business, follow business creators. If you want to get healthy and lose weight, follow health and wellness creators. Basically use media to inspire you and influence you in the right direction. Also, apologies for the changing lighting. I always have to film later in the day and the sun sets at like 5, so I'm like rapidly losing light right now. The 7th thing we are leaving behind is comparison. Comparison is a huge distraction to actually getting to where you want to go. When you're spending your energy comparing yourself to someone else, you're not actually progressing to becoming like them or having what they have. If your attention is on being sad about all the things that you don't have, like how is that helping you? It's just making you miserable, and like why would you do that to yourself? If you took all of that energy and put it towards your own life instead, your life could skyrocket in ways you can't even imagine right now. So channel that comparison or envious energy into being inspired instead. Every time someone has something that you want, don't be jealous or compare. Look at it as discovering what you like and say, hey, I didn't realize people live like this, and I'm really gravitating towards this thing or this lifestyle. Now I know it's possible for others, therefore it must be possible for me. Let's say you see someone on social media that travels multiple times a year and you feel this little pang of jealousy and comparison. Transmute that feeling into being happy for them and be happy for yourself that you just discovered a new aspect of what you want your dream life to look like. Channel that energy into figuring out how to get what they have. In this case, it's how to travel more. And if you approach it like this, you'll realize there's actually 1,000,001 ways to get to that end goal. And there's also a lot of beauty in your unique story on how you get there. So fall in love with that. But if you find that you compare yourself to someone on a topic that you have zero control over, like their childhood was so much better than yours, they grew up with money and loving parents, there's obviously nothing you can do to change your childhood or magically get new parents. So this type of comparison is just useless and needs to be squashed. Instead, practice radical acceptance for the things that you can't change. This will free up so much of your brain power and emotions that were tied up with constantly comparing yourself. So no more comparison in 2025. Replace it with being inspired and taking action. Number 8, the last thing that we are leaving behind in 2024 is rumination. Rumination keeps you stuck in the past. It robs you of peace in the present and progress in the future. I used to be stuck regretting time I wasted in my early 20s or bad decisions I made, and I'd fall into these thought spirals where I'd analyze the same moments and decisions over and over again, and I just feel so deeply regretful and just down on myself. Logically, I knew this was a really bad habit of mine, but I had a really hard time stopping. What eventually helped me break this habit of ruminating was a few things. One thing was practicing being more present and less in my head. If I was alone, I would simply just look around at my environment. Maybe I would pet my cats, I'd go for a walk. Another thing that helped was setting a time limit on how long I allowed myself to ruminate before focusing on solutions. This allowed me to process the regret, but it was useful to have that clear cutoff, like, okay, we're done being sad about this thing. Now let's think about how we can do things differently next time. All right, that is all I have for you guys today. I really hope that we can all leave these things in the past and move on to 2025 with a clean slate. And if you don't stop doing these things, I'm gonna come to your house and yell at you because I want what's best for you. Okay, bestie? Got it? Good. Life is too short to keep carrying all these rocks in your backpack. If you guys have your own ideas on what you want to leave behind in 2024, leave them down in the comments. I would love to read them, and I'm sure other people watching will too. I also have a life update. Me and my husband sold our house and we are moving to Toronto. So I'll be taking a short break on YouTube in January to do that move. But if you want to follow along, I am posting vlogs of the whole moving process over on Instagram. I also post a ton of travel, fashion, and lifestyle content on there. And I'm always answering your guys' DMs on Instagram, so definitely go give me a follow on there. Remember to check out the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Click the link in my description to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you next time. Bye guys.